Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Nick Tudor. I'm the CEO of D-RisQ, and I'll talk to you a bit about one of the deliverables that we've done under high class, which is to do with the relationship between security, system, and the safety processes. So the context is obviously in this case from aerospace, it's the certification of systems under DO-326A. It gives quite a good canter through all of the processes that need to happen from a security perspective, but unfortunately it's very complex and therefore it's easy to make mistakes. What we understand is that good application of this is patchy because of the interplay between systems development, safety development, and obviously security development. And what we're trying to do here is to make sure that the assessment aspects of security and the development aspects of security interleave properly with the system development and the safety development. Broadly, there are three levels or stages, if you like, that we need to consider going through how this all works together. So you've got your system and safety process activities, as you might expect. This is all at the aircraft level, doing the requirements and the functional assessment and preliminary aircraft system safety assessment. And then you drop into the system aspects where you do your PSSA. There's lots of feed forwards and feedbacks that go on there, getting yourself down to the system implementation itself. Obviously, you can do system implementation separately from the aircraft development. And then once you've done all that and you put all your systems together and you start building the airplane, then you're looking at the aircraft level integration and obviously verification. And you're ready then for certification. And as I say, that these all split into three levels. There's the aircraft level, the system level, and then you're going back to the aircraft level. Those colors, the red, the green, and the purple, we'll use throughout this presentation. From 326A, you've got start of your process with the plan for how you're going to meet DO-326A with this PSEC, and it finishes with the summary at the end. In between time, you've got the security risk assessment and all the related activities. So obviously you've got a scope that you've got to define, and you do your assessment. And if that's okay and the risks are all acceptable, then that's the end of it. And away you go to the PSEC. Unfortunately, in the real world, I suspect that that's going to be not acceptable. And then you go on through doing some more security activities, to development and your assurance, and you may have to therefore do some architectural modifications, perhaps at the system or at the aircraft level, and you go round and round until, of course, the security risks are acceptable. So talking of going round and round, what we've got is, again, from 326A, you've got this appendix here, which splits it from the certification processes, the aircraft level and system level. It starts with the document, the PSEC, of course, and it finishes with the summary of that, of all the activities that you do. Talking of the activities, there are two types of activities that are defined in 326A. That's the activities for security risk assessment, and those which we'll do in blue of the actual security development. At the aircraft level, you've got the security scope definition and the risk assessment, etc. And then you've got the verification and some guidance that gets done. And then similar sort of processes that you've got for the system level. And then what happens is there's an interchange between them all. I'm not going to go through the build of all those because we'll go through that in a second. So that's one set of processes, and that's got to line up in some way, shape or form with the safety assessment. And what 326A gives you is three separate partial diagrams provided to show how this might work. This is merely one of those. So what you've actually got to do is to try and merge what I showed you earlier, the system and the safety assessment processes, with that in some way, shape or form. At which point do you do what activity? And unfortunately, that could be a bit of a bird's nest. However, it does get worse than this. All of this is kind of interesting, but you've got the security risk assessment on its own, which has got to be lined up. This is one of those the extra diagrams. So the process of running through this can be intricate, to say the least. So you've got this starter for 10 with the aircraft level processes, and you start doing some of the security risk assessment, and you feed that back into the system development, etc. Then you start on the system development aspects themselves, and then you're looking at the system level. This, of course, can be done in isolation for a particular system, like a radio or whatever. And obviously, there's a feed in between your preliminary system security assessment, risk assessment, and your PSSA, etc. So as you can see, there's quite a lot of feed forward and feedback, and this is a suggested ordering of the way in which these things are done. And then you return back to the aircraft level, and you do your integration and your final aspects to do with the aircraft level from a security perspective. And you then move into certification. Again, going back to these, here we get rid of the orange ones, and we just leave the blues here for the actual security development, because all we've done is do the assessment. So part of the development now against this starts off with whatever security architecture measures you may have in place, and then you go into the system level for the similar sort of thing. And obviously there's a feed forward and feed back into the left-hand side of the diagram here. And then you produce a bunch of guidance, and you get some feed forward and feedback, as you might expect, between the various activities in terms of verification at the system level and at the aircraft level. And then finally, you are available, having got your operator's guidance, to be able to do the actual certification. That's all great in isolation, but unfortunately, both of these diagrams now need to merge. So we've got system safety assessment on the left-hand side, security risk assessment, and the security development we now need to merge. So this is like an ordering that I think might be useful. So you can see we're doing the standard stuff on the left there, and then because we're in the first red area, we're doing this for the aircraft level. We obviously now need to think about how this plays forward into systems level activities. So we've got the next step to do the aircraft security scope definition and the preliminary aircraft security risk assessment. And of course, that plays forward even further into back into the aircraft level activities as well. Then we get into security development, and there's some activities that need to be done. And at this stage, these blue lines start to appear, which are the interactions between the risk assessment area and the security development area. And of course, we're also focusing on evidence that will support our certification at the end, which goes into the summary. So now, parking the aircraft level activities, we then move on to the next step, which is to do our system level, which obviously can be done in isolation. So we bring in now, again, the same sort of processes that we've had at the aircraft level, bringing them into the system level. But of course, between all these, we've also got some of the blue activities between the risk assessment and the security development that needs to be done. So once you've got to the allocation of requirements of hardware and software, then the next thing we need to be thinking about is essential system implementation and how that works from a system safety perspective and from a risk assessment that we may get from the security side of life. And that all seems to appear around about this kind of point in the process. So that's number 10 on our list. So the next thing to do is obviously move back to the aircraft level once we've got all these blue lines implemented together, and that then brings us to the system level, system and aircraft level integration and verification. So once we've done the first two assessments here at the top level, there's some feedback that goes on to the systems level and obviously feed forward as well. We've got to do the aircraft level verification at this stage, and that brings out the aircraft security risk assessment. And then we produce a bunch of guidance. Firstly, the aircraft security operators guidance, and then obviously we're ready to do the actual certification itself. And there is, of course, at this stage, some feedback that goes on as well. What we're looking for, though, is the PSEC-AC to be completed, and that obviously feeds into our PSEC-AC summary, as does every other activity. So in summary, the deliverable is a view on how best to schedule those activities for compliance to DO-326A. It's a combination of systems development, safety and security activities. And of course, this isn't the only way to do this. It is for you to decide how you adapt this as necessary. What is recognized throughout the whole thing is iteration is highly likely. And of course, I've said on a number of occasions that the systems development might be undertaken in isolation of a specific aircraft development, so that can just get plugged in. Happy to take questions after the session. Thank you very much. I'm signing off. Thank you very much.